Excellent. Thanks again, Steph, for your time. I wanted to start by reading my dream, the summary. I was in the parking lot of the Catholic church near my home that I used to attend up until I was in high school. I saw Jeff from my high school walking there in the parking lot and said hello to him, and then pointed out that my son was walking down the street. I turned and said to Jeff, "Kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents." And then Jeff and I both laughed with each other. Then I noticed that the church is right next to a big pond. And I looked out and saw the pond and how breathtakingly beautiful it was. The view, the sunlight coming in, the bright sunshine, clear blue sky, just like I remembered it when I was a child. I walked down the grassy incline from the parking lot to the edge of the pond and noticed something lying in the water, so near the edge of the water that I could see it very clearly. It looked like two dead bodies, one adult and one child. The child, they both were wearing very brightly colored clothes, lying very still in the shallow water. At first, I thought it must have been an illusion. Just then, as I was standing on the edge of the water, I saw another guy from my hometown, who was a close friend of my younger brother, walking along the edge of the pond with his wife and his child. I said, "Hi, Tom," but he did not react at all and just kept walking towards me. He continued walking towards me, and when he was right near me, I called his name again. He still did not react at all and just walked by me with a blank look on his face. Just after he passed me by, I called him by his name again, and then he turned back around and said hello to me, and then we started talking. After that, I started taking off my socks and shoes to wade into the water. And Tom asked me why I was doing that because it was pretty cold outside, too cold of a day to go in the water. I pointed to the two bodies lying under the water and told Tom that I wanted to confirm that they are real. There was a kid's plastic pail and a shovel on the ground, and I picked up the little shovel and waded into the water about up to my knees. I looked down into the water and now could only see the child's body lying on the ground under the shallow water. I reached down and held the little child's hand. As I tried to lift her hand, I could see that her arm was buried under the sand. I started digging with that little plastic shovel, but I couldn't extricate her arm because she was wearing a sweater, and that sweater was stuck, kind of buried in the sand. Since I realized that I couldn't pick up the child's body and place it on the shore by myself, I turned back to Tom, who was standing there by the side of the pond still, and I asked him to call 911 for help. And that was the end of my dream.
Yeah,
So
all right. And
after-
sorry, just for those who are listening, this is not the real names. So tell me, you'd also written down some thoughts about the dream. So that
Yes, so after I had written that out, I noticed the first part of the dream where I said, kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. And that's when I laughed with the Jeff there. Thinking back to my youth, our family home was actually about a 20-minute walk from the church. And each Sunday, my siblings and I made the journey on foot because attendance was not optional by our parents. They forced us to go, even though they didn't go to church themselves, but they made us go every Sunday.
And sorry, just tell me about why your parents didn't go to church.
Well, they would hang out and sleep in. They'd go out Saturday night, go out with their friends, and then sleep in.
No, I get that. But sorry, why would you have to go to church, but your parents didn't go?
They wouldn't entertain any questions. We asked them a few times. They said, we've gone to church enough as we were kids and young adults. When we were little, they had to drive us. They said they don't need to go anymore.
Okay, got it.
It was kind of resident answer, but it wasn't really weren't allowed to question, or we get in trouble.
And were they still Christians or religious when they were older?
Not really. No.
What do you mean?
Not even. Not even. My mother might go, Christmas Catholic, as I would say, maybe once a year, Christmas. But after my father died, my mother with her friends started going maybe when she was in her 70s. I think it was more of a social thing.
And did they pray, or did you say grace, or was there any sort of religious stuff during the week? Okay, got it. So they were essentially agnostics or atheists, or maybe agnostics is probably closer.
Right,
And
non-practicing.
okay, got it.
So their absence from church, the kids were there by ourselves, made us feel really lonely and really not part of the church community, especially when I notice, other children sitting with their families during the church services. That solitude often left me questioning the significance of going to church at all. What was the purpose? Since it was clear my own parents didn't consider it important enough for them to attend themselves. So that was one thought I had. Second thought was, yeah, obviously these two dead bodies in the pond at the edge of the water. Over the past decades, I've only ever returned to my old church for funerals for family and friends from my town. And just 2 weeks ago, I was there to say goodbye to my mother's best friend. She was the last of my mother's close circle to pass away, so it was kind of like the last time I would be going there.
But
Standing in that familiar,
your
yeah.
father's dead, but your mother's still alive. Is that right?
No, no, my mother passed away as well. Yeah,
And when did she die?
about 4 or 5 years ago.
And your father?
About over 20 years ago.
Okay, got it. Sorry, go ahead.
So standing in that familiar place, I realized it might be the final time I ever set foot in that church. And, perhaps obviously my subconscious is kind of nudging me to reflect on what those early experiences in the Catholic Church meant and throughout my childhood and what they're meant to teach me now.
Right.
So that was the second thought. And then the third thought I had was just about the church itself. You can see, uh, I sent a little photo to you, but there's a parking lot and small grassy area leading down to the pond. When I was a kid, there were zero trees at all, and the grass was always mown, so you could just walk right from the parking lot right down to the pond. It was fantastic. Hang out on the edge of the water and see, the beautiful scenery. And when I attended church, from elementary school up through high school, it was a really quiet place to kind of relax afterwards. And basically hang out, reflect. And however, on weekends, there were often crowds of high schoolers hanging out there, making noise, drinking, partying by the pond. So obviously the church was not up for that. So after a few years of having to deal with these quote unquote troublemakers, the church basically let the grass go wild, and there was also grow wild, and also had the trees grew. Kind of sprouted all along the edge of the water, so really kind of the view was quite blocked out, as well as you really couldn't walk down from the parking lot down to the church anymore. So really, it was turning that once accessible area by the pond into an overgrown barrier. And I remember thinking back to my siblings and I used to skip church services and just hang out at the pond, which was, welcome, calming retreat from the cold, unfriendly environment in the church. Yeah, it was unfriendly because again, we weren't there with our parents, and people would look at us askance, and sometimes we were misbehaving, and people would say, we're interrupting them while they're trying to attend church services or pray. By allowing the area to become inaccessible, the church feels now it's kind of less inviting to those kind of seeking refuge. People like the younger me, perhaps lost in searching. So, in thinking this through, it seems like this choice of the church seems to stray from Jesus' message of compassion, hope, and inclusion, closing the door on those who need it most.
Right.
That was my third thought there of the dream.
And when did you have the dream?
2 weeks ago.
And sorry, how close was that relative to you going to the funeral for your mother's friend?
About a week or a week and a half afterwards.
Okay, got it.
Maybe 2 weeks, yeah.
And was there anything that happened that was memorable the day before, or sorry, the day of the night of the dream? Like if it's Monday night, Monday.
Not that I can recall, no.
And where's your level of, I assume your level of faith has maintained itself or improved?
No, I don't really go to church myself, no. I just
Okay,
go for the
you don't go to
services.
church.
I know.
And what's your relationship to Christianity?
And yes, so my wife is not Christian, and we don't bring the kids up in Christian. We do have.
Sorry, your wife
We
is
celebrate.
now or not?
Is not Christian.
Not Christian.
No,
Okay.
no.
And
So
is
we
she
didn't really have
some
the
other
kids.
religion, or is she atheist or agnostic?
A kind of agnostic, yeah.
Okay. And that's been the case the whole time you've known her, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that is your wife, and what has been your sort of, I guess, history with religion, and where are you now?
So it's kind of like not having church in society. I've seen that it's kind of like a pillar has been taken out. So in terms of teaching morals to kids and things of that sort, we didn't really have that. They didn't go to church services or the Sunday
Sorry,
school or
sorry,
any of
hang on,
that.
hang on. So when you
Yep,
say we didn't really have that, so you're talking about the pillar being taken out in terms of teaching morality. When you say we
right.
didn't have that, you mean as a kid, the church didn't teach you morality?
They did. We did in Sunday schools, yes,
Okay, so
but
you
it
had
was
that
all
moral instruction when you were a kid.
yes, yeah.
Okay, got it. And did you accept or believe the moral instruction?
Well, Sunday school teachers could be pretty mean, so it really wasn't. It didn't hit home as much as I think it probably should have if we had liked the people who were our teachers.
Yeah, because you said it was cold, right? Cold and
Yeah,
mean in the church.
right in the church. Yeah,
So it wasn't charismatic or anything like that. So
no.
what was your sense of the church, its teachings, and why did you experience them as cold?
Well, it's also it was cold because again it wasn't the family together. Well, the family was when I was real little. We would go together, but then when we were able to get into elementary school, my parents just said, "Okay, forget it." They stopped going and said, "You all can walk." So that's kind of what we did. And then we're kind of like on our own. We go there. We didn't really want to be there. We would sit in the back as much as possible, and then sometimes the ushers would poke us and say, "Hey, go up and sit. You're sitting away from everyone. Why don't you move up closer to the altar?" and things like that. So it was always like we just kind of have to suffer through it every hour until we got the idea that we could just skip and just hang out at the pond and just come back and tell my parents that we went to church when we really didn't.
And I guess it wasn't kid friendly, or what was the sort of American churches that I've been to? There's music. There's usually a pretty charismatic preacher who makes it kind of fun and engaging, but it wasn't anything like that. Is that right?
No, that's more in the Protestant style, not in the Catholic style. It's
Right.
all pretty serious. Yeah.
Okay. And were there any other kids around that you knew, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. All the kids I went to school with, they were there with their parents.
Oh, okay. So because they were there with their parents, did their parents ever ask you where your parents were?
No,
Did the priest
they
or
didn't.
anyone ever ask where your parents were?
No.
And what age were you when you started going on your own? And also just give me the ages of your siblings.
We all started. Let's see, started going my own probably around like 9 years old, 10 years old. Yeah, 10 years old. Yeah.
And the ages of your siblings?
Yeah. So about the same. 8 and 12.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. It's a bit, I mean, it's odd. I've not really heard of this before that the parents send the kids off walking to school at sort of between the ages of 8 and 12 as a whole. That's quite unusual. Did the priest ever come to your parents' house or your house?
Oh no, no, no.
Okay. And how long would you say that you guys went before you just went to hang out at the pool? At the pond, sorry.
At the pond. Well, I would say probably when we get into high school, and then once my older sibling got a license, car license, then it was like, okay, let's just go down to the coffee shop and hang out.
Okay.
Pretend that we didn't even, go to church. We just left for an hour and came back.
And did
So
your
basically, they
parents?
pretend it's
Sorry, go ahead.
it was like in Russia, you'd say they pretend to work and the communists pretend to pay you. It's like we pretend to go to church, and my parents pretended that they didn't notice that we were skipping.
And I mean, did your parents ever indicate that they did know you were skipping?
Once in a while.
And what would they say?
My mother would kind of chuckle a little bit.
And did you ever have a conversation about this with your parents?
Oh, we did before. Well, why do we have to go? Why do we
No,
have to
no, no.
go?
Sorry,
We just have to go.
after you started skipping
After.
and so on.
Well, actually, my younger sibling just stopped going after he got his license, and so he never actually went through, confirmation, which we have when you're basically about 17, 16, 17 years old. So he never got confirmed, but myself and my other sibling did. So I'm kind of going through the motions.
Yeah. So did you ever talk to your parents before they, like over the course of their life, before they died, about not going?
No.
Okay. And did your parents have an age difference? Is that why your dad died younger, or you just have bad luck?
I know they're about the same age.
Okay. And what did your father die of?
Uh, Partially from smoking cigarettes and from alcohol.
Were they drinkers, like hard drinkers, or
My father was, yes.
okay? And your mother now, right?
Not so much.
Okay. And how happy would you say their marriage is, or was? Sorry.
It was okay. We stayed together. At the end, obviously, with my father's drinking after retirement, that it got worse. So that was a real rough patch. But he didn't last too long after retirement.
Okay, got it. Okay. And with regards to your own life, are you in your 40s?
50s.
50s, okay. And what happened with your own family life, if anything?
You mean myself, my wife, my kids.
Uh-huh.
In terms of church services and
Well, I mean, how many kids do you have?
two.
Two kids, okay. And how old? Don't do. Are they in their teens or 20s or
Early 20s.
early 20s? Okay. So you have two kids. And what was your, I guess, no particular relationship with religion with your kids, right?
No, I mean, we celebrated the holidays like Christmas, giving presents and things like that, but not from a religious sense, no.
And what was your kids' relationship with your parents? I guess not much if your dad died 20 years ago, but your mom?
Yeah, they were with her for a good 15 years or so, and we see her from time to time.
Okay. Did you live
It was
far or
pretty.
close or?
Yeah, we lived about 45 minutes away, an hour away.
And how often would your mother hang out with your kids and your family?
Maybe once a month, go down and have lunch or something.
God, why so little?
Well, they had activities, and my other siblings would hang out with her as well. So,
Oh, come on. She was retired.
right, right,
Come on, man. Unless she's an Olympian, she's got time.
right, right. Well, yeah, that's true. Well, she also did get sick for the past last 5 years of her life. So prior to that, um, the last 5 years was just myself going to the nursing home for the most part. But prior to that, yeah, she would go to their games once in a while. We take her to the games
Okay,
once
so
in a while on
why
weekends.
did she see her grandkids so little? Other than that she was a boomer, and they're kind of like that. But I'm just curious.
um, she actually wasn't a boomer. She's a little older than
Okay.
from the silent generation. Yeah. Um, just spent time with others. She had busy schedules. She'd go traveling, and
Oh, come on, man. It's a matter of priorities, right?
right, right, yeah.
Okay, let me ask it another way. Why was your kids so low priority for her? Like one lunch every month? That's sad.
Yeah, maybe once or twice, maybe twice. Again, we live a little farther away, but
Okay,
the
if you don't
other
want to talk
siblings live
about this,
closer.
just tell
Yeah.
me because it's kind of
No,
boring
no,
just
no.
playing whack-a-mole with your avoidance here.
Right, right, right. Sorry.
I mean, she's
Yeah,
45 minutes away. She's got grandkids.
right, right. Yeah, she hung out with the other grandkids. She took care of two grandkids 2 or 3 days a week who lived close by. So she was also, that was really tiring for her. So on the
So
weekends
why
was
were
when
the
we could
other
say,
kids so much higher priority than your kids? I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm just genuinely curious.
yeah, I think because they were born first, so a little older. So that's why.
Really?
Basically, it was like that.
That's it?
Yeah, I think so.
Just a time glitch? That's it?
Well, favor the older children, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, that's really unfair, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I mean, she's with them 2 or 3 days a week, and you get once or twice a month.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, did you like your mother?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was. we did ask, but she said it was, our kids plus their kids would be too much for her to handle. It would be, 4 kids as opposed to two. So she said only in emergencies.
Sorry, hang on. So you said, can you spend more time with our kids? And she said,
During the weekday, right?
well, I don't care, weekday or weekend, who cares, right?
Right, right,
When you're retired, everything's a weekend. So
right.
you said, can you spend more time with our kids? And she said, not unless it's an emergency, because the other kids are more important or higher priority or something.
Or she had already been babysitting for them for a year or so.
No, but that's
So she
circular,
couldn't take
right?
on the
So why
extra.
was, I mean, was there an
Right.
emergency in that family? Was somebody sick? Why was it? I mean, did she have to babysit? I mean, what was?
Both parents worked, so they would go to daycare like 2 days, and then 2 days a week she would, or 3 days a week she would babysit them.
Okay. So your wife stayed home, is that right?
No, she worked part time.
Okay. Um,
So yeah, sometimes
okay. So because your siblings, the two parents, right? Your sibling and the spouse, they both worked full time. So your mother got kind of dragged into taking care of those kids, but then she had nothing left over for
right,
your kids because your wife worked part time.
exactly.
I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah, it was frustrating. But yeah, I did felt like we were kind of like second class citizens at that time.
Second class. I mean,
Third
I
class,
don't know.
cattle
You're
class.
way down on the list, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they get 2 to 3 days a week, and you get only in emergencies.
right, exactly.
Um, and sorry, where were you in the birth order?
Middle.
Okay. So did you talk to your mother about this, or did you talk to your siblings about this and say, maybe we can find a way to even this out a bit? I mean, you and your
No, I
wife
did
could have
not.
used some time off too, I'm sure, right? Having somebody over with your kids if they were close and getting along and so on.
Exactly, exactly.
So did you talk about this with your family at all?
No, it was a sore point, so we didn't talk about it.
Um, that
Looking back,
I
yes,
mean,
I should
it's a
have
sore point.
brought it
That's
up.
what you talk
Yeah,
about. But you don't go to the doctor with a pain in your elbow and say, "Well, I don't want to talk about the pain in my elbow because it's painful."
right,
That's what you're going for, right?
right, exactly.
Did your family have a habit of avoiding like this kind of honesty and reasonable requests?
Yes, definitely. Yes,
Okay. And this is shared with your siblings too.
yes, yes,
Where
definitely.
was it your older or younger sibling where your mother was taking care of the kids?
Older,
And
her favorite.
do
Yes,
you oh dear. Do you think that they were exploiting your mother?
yes.
Um,
When it became clear that she was older and it was like I saw her once at the end of the day. She was completely exhausted. She was in her 70s or whatever. I was like, well, two young kids running around. That's a lot of energy, so it was very difficult for her.
right. And I guess did that I guess that obviously stopped before she got sick because they got older. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so did you ever talk to your brother and say, come on, man, you're running mom ragged. It's not reasonable.
No, I didn't. I didn't have a lot of communication with him.
Well, but I mean, it's bad for your mom, right?
Right, right.
I mean, you could call him, right? I mean, he wouldn't hang up on you, would he?
Yeah. I don't think he would have hung up, but it certainly would have been an argument.
Okay, and
Pretty narcissistic, pretty selfish, I would
oh,
say.
he's narcissistic in your view.
Yes,
Okay, so selfish people get their way, and good people get ignored. Okay,
exactly.
got it.
That's what happened.
Just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page as far as that goes. Okay. And yeah, level of happiness with your own marriage?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Okay, good, good. All right. So I appreciate that backstory. Let's have a look at the dream. Okay, I was in the parking lot of the Catholic church near my home that I used to attend until I was in high school. I saw Jeff from my high school. Now, remind me a little bit about Jeff.
Just some random person I had played sports with. I wasn't really friends with him. Just I had no idea why they showed up. Well, he showed up in the dream.
How old was your son in the dream?
Ooh, probably middle school, maybe 12, 13, 14.
So that's about the time that your eldest started going to the church. And you guys went too, right? Without your parents, is that right? Okay.
Right. Yeah,
So, and this was your actual son. It wasn't like a made up son.
correct.
Okay. So you pointed my son who was walking down the street. So was your son not with you?
No, apparently not.
Was he ahead or behind?
Just to the side. So I was in the parking lot, and he was just walking down the street, walking past the parking lot on the
Was he
street.
further away from the church?
Yes.
Okay. So you turn to Jeff, say kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. So that is a statement of self-sufficiency, right? And this is what your parents said. Your parents said,
Right.
we don't need to drive you anymore. You can go on your own. You don't need us, but you need the church, right?
Right. Exactly.
Now, did they ever say why you needed the church?
They did. Why did they say? Basically, they said they've learned all the lessons, so there's nothing new for them to learn, but we have to learn
And at that
to go
time,
through. So that's kind of the
and
reason.
at that time, did you want to be like your father?
Did I want to really like my father? Um, hmm. At the beginning, yes, but I said he's kind of a silent generation, so not really. Not as didn't really have a lot of interaction with him. Like a personal thing would be like, tell us to clean up or do things, do that, but didn't really have a lot of personal interaction with him. He wouldn't like play games with us very much, and once in a while he would. He'd watch TV with us, and once or play ball occasionally outside, but
Yeah, because what I'm thinking about
he
is
kind of
if I were to say to my daughter, um, you have to take piano. Let's say I'm an expert pianist, right? Or say
right,
you have to take piano lessons, and then she would say, "Well, why don't you have to take piano lessons, Dad?" And I'd say, "Because I've already learned piano." Right? So if she did not respect my piano playing, this would make no sense to her, right? If I couldn't play chopsticks, right?
right,
So if your parents say, "We've got everything we can get out of religion, we've graduated," then they should live very godly religious lives, and they should be happy, and they should be devoted to their community, and they should have good personal habits, and not be, say, addicts to cigarettes and alcohol and so on, because they're saying we've graduated from church.
right,
So they should be very noble and admirable human beings, right?
right, and also keep the Sabbath every week, which they didn't do. Obviously, that's part of being it, right?
So they're saying, well, you have to learn what we've already mastered. But when you looked at your parents, did you see people who had mastered virtue, happiness, health, and life?
No,
Right.
definitely not.
So it's kind of bull, right?
Right.
Now, when you were a kid, did you think, and that would be a pretty advanced thought, right? But when you were a kid, did you think, well, hang on, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense? I mean, they're saying that they've learned everything they can from church, but their lives are a bit of a mess, right? My dad's an alcoholic and a smoker. He doesn't really spend much time with his kids. How were they in terms of getting along with each other? Or were they just kind of like roommates?
They're okay with each other. They were okay. Yeah, they got along well with each other. Just the kids kind of were kept at a distance. But I would also say that both of them came from very religious family. Both of them had priests and nuns as their parents' siblings. So their aunts and uncles were priests and nuns. So kind of their generation and their siblings, most of them had stopped going to church.
Got it. Okay. So they didn't say we don't believe anymore. They said we've outgrown it, or we've learned everything we can.
We've learned everything we can. Yeah.
So how did that square with you as a kid that other people's parents were there, and I'm sure other people's grandparents were there? So how did it square with you as a kid that your parents said, we've learned everything we can, but there were people way older than your parents still going to church to learn things?
It didn't square very well with me at all. It's kind of hypocrites,
So you didn't believe them when they said,
saying
we've
we have to
outgrown
go.
church?
No, because also, the Sunday school, the parents would be teaching. My friends' parents would be teaching. My classmates' parents would be teaching the Sunday school. So um, that was also, they're not just there at the services, but they're also there, teaching the kids
Did your parents... I'm so
separately.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was not only not attending church, but also in terms of my friends' parents, it was them attending church with their kids, but also being the teachers of the
Right.
Sunday school, the books.
Got it.
Right. So a lot more involvement.
So even if your parents had graduated, they could... Did they teach you much about religion?
No,
Okay. And
not at
did
all.
they do good works in the community, charity, helping out in the neighborhood, soup kitchens, bringing food to people who were sick or old, or visiting the shut-ins, or did they do any community charity stuff?
After my father died, my mother was a volunteer at the library in the hospital.
Okay.
That was in her 70s.
Yeah, but not when they were teaching you all about
But no, not
religion.
when I was a kid.
Okay. All right, so got it. Okay, so kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. Both Jeff and I laughed. Okay, so the church is right next to a big pond. I looked out at the pond and saw how breathtakingly beautiful the view of the pond was, with the bright sun and the clear blue sky, just like it was when I was a child. So that's interesting because that's a sort of paganism or naturalism. In other words, you're not looking at the church saying how beautiful the glory of God is. You're looking at nature, right? And saying,
right,
that's where the beauty is. It's in the natural, not in religion. Because you didn't look at the pond and say, it's not a criticism, right? You didn't look at the pond and say,
mm-hmm.
how beautiful are the works of God.
Right.
And so you're standing with your back to the church, looking at the pond and saying, oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
Correct.
So I walked down the grassy incline to the edge of the pond. Now, help me understand the grassy incline. How overgrown was it relative to the church letting it overgrow to drive off the school kids, the high school kids?
So in the dream, it was just like when I was a kid, so I could see everything. So it wasn't overgrown at all. It was perfectly mowed.
Okay. I noticed something lying in the water, so near to the edge that I could see very clearly. 2 dead bodies, 1 adult and 1 child. Now, roughly how old was the child and roughly how old was the adult?
The child was a toddler. And the adult, I'm not sure, maybe 40s or 30s.
Okay, 1 adult and 1 child wearing very brightly colored clothes. Both of them, right?
Yes.
Like clown clothes or jester clothes or something else?
No, just like red, like you could very clearly see it through the water. As opposed to like if it was brown, maybe, or light,
Right. So it wasn't like multicolored. It was
meld
just bright
in with, right? No. Right.
And it's interesting how you say lying very still. It's like they're dead. Of course they're going to be lying still.
Right. But I didn't know they were dead at the time. Oh, actually, no.
So it looked like 2 dead bodies.
It looked like that. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it might have been an illusion. Just then I saw another guy from my hometown who's a close friend of my younger brother walking along the edge of the pond with his wife and child. So the first guy, Jeff, was he older or younger than you? Oh, the same age. Same age, okay.
Same age.
All right, so another guy, close friend of my younger brother, walking along the edge of the pond with his wife and child. I said, hi, Tom, but he didn't react at all, just kept walking towards me. He continued walking towards me. When he was right near me, I called his name again. He still didn't react at all. Okay, Dad, do you have any idea what happened to these 2 guys from your high school? Did you ever find out about them?
Saw them on social media. I mean, this one we call Tom here, he's married and has kids, and the other one is got some girlfriend, no kids. But I don't know really.
So he's walking towards me. I called his name again, didn't react, just walked by me with a blank look on his face. Just after he passed me by, I had told him my name. Then he turned around and said hello to me. And then we said, because it's interesting because you've got two dead bodies and this guy's treating you like you're a ghost, right?
Right, right.
So that's interesting. Okay. So I started taking my socks and shoes. You don't remember what you talked about. You just exchanging pleasantries, or did you tell him about the bodies?
No, no, I just, hey, this is my name, and oh, by the way, maybe you just thought I was a stranger, didn't recognize me. It had been so long.
Well,
Hey, how you doing?
yes. In
Stuff
the
like that
dream,
type.
you're an adult. Is that right? Or are you the
Right,
age that you
correct.
were
We're
when your
both
kid was
adults.
in middle school?
No, no, I
Okay,
was
got it.
the
Like
adult.
your age in your 50s, right? Okay.
Our age, yeah.
Started
Yeah.
taking off my socks and shoes to get in the water, and he asked me why I'm doing that. As it was cold outside, too cold a day to go in the water, I pointed to the two bodies lying under the water. I wanted to confirm if they're real. So, are you trying to confirm if they're real or if they're alive? I think at this point you know they're dead, right?
They look like
Well,
they're
they
dead,
haven't
yes.
moved and
But
they're
I wanted to say
underwater
it's
for
not
a
an
while,
illusion.
right?
Yeah.
So they're dead.
Right. Right,
Isn't
right.
that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There was a kid's plastic pail and shovel on the ground. I picked up the little shovel and waded into the water up to my knees. And what's the shovel for? To poke the bodies?
Right. And also maybe dig it out in case
I looked down. Okay,
maybe
I
I
looked
hadn't
down into
noticed.
the water and now could only see the child's body lying on the ground under the shallow water. I reached down and held the child's little hand, and as I tried to lift her hand, oh, it's a female, right? Okay. Tried to lift her hand, I
Yes.
could see that her arm was buried under the sand. I started digging with the little plastic shovel, but couldn't extricate her arm because she was wearing a sweater that was stuck or buried in the sand. I realized that I couldn't pick up the child's body and place it on the shore by myself. So I turned back to Tom, who was standing there by the side of the road, asked him to call 911 to get some help. Now that's interesting. 911, not the police, because 911 would be an emergency, but they're already dead, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. So I personally, I thought that this was your older and younger brother, but it doesn't make sense if it's a female, right?
Right.
Was there a girl that you were close to when you were growing up?
Was there a girl that I was close to? Like in the neighborhood or something? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, or a cousin or um, anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. Cousin, I would say. Yeah, close.
And tell me a little bit about her.
Never got married. Actually became very religious. So maybe that has something to do with it.
She became very religious
It
but didn't
works for
get
the
married.
church, correct? Right.
Okay. And when did you last have significant contact with her?
Oh, from time to time. Yeah. We have holidays and
No,
family
no, but
gatherings.
like I mean, in terms of like being friends close by, seeing each other on a regular basis. Was it when you were kids or
Oh,
older?
yes, when kids. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, one adult and one child.
Well, another thing I was thinking maybe is because, I had been there for my mother's friend's funeral, but I also been to funerals of someone from, someone who was my age who died. And I went and saw his mother was there at the funeral. And I said, oh, I'm sorry for your loss to his mother. So I was thinking that maybe could have been, it's my mother's friend and also my friend. So that could be the parent of the child.
I'm sorry, I missed that last bit. Your mother's friend and your friend.
Right,
If you
right.
could
So
just
two separate
tell me that
funerals.
again.
Yeah, yep. So
Two separate funerals. Okay.
you have two separate funerals. So this recent funeral was my mother's friend, and then I had gone to someone from my neighborhood and saw his mother there. And I said, very sorry for your loss. Obviously, it's very difficult. It's a lot more difficult to say, to attend a funeral if some of the parents are still alive. So I think maybe because it was the same church, I went to two funerals, one for my mother's friend, and then one for someone from my I went to school with. It's my age.
Okay, so let me run something past you.
Yeah.
All this stuff is a hit and miss stuff, right? So if it
Right.
doesn't fit, we'll try again. Okay. So let me tell you what I think, and you can tell me if it makes any sense.
Okay.
I think this is your mother and your father, and I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
So your mother and your father said, "You go to church. We don't need to go." and they are away from the church and they're embedded in the natural world. And by being away from the church and being embedded in the natural world, they're dead. They're not growing. They're not maturing. They're not honest. They're not direct. And
Right.
you said your father's very, very distant, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you said that your father, I always sound like I'm like, yeah, but you said, like, I don't mean to, so you said your dad was sort of, this sort of silent generation was very sort of old, mature, distant, very,
Right.
was it authoritarian? Was it like
Oh, definitely.
hyper?
Yeah.
Yeah, hyper.
Authoritarian.
It sort of reminds me of like the guy who was my headmaster at boarding school, who was like, like this god of distance and masculinity and stoicism, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
And was your mother, was she more playful? Or was she also stern and distant in that way?
She was more playful. She'd play, board games and stuff with us. So definitely, she was the closer one to us.
Okay. So, two dead bodies, one adult and one child, brightly colored clothes, lying very still in the shallow water. So, the brightly colored clothes, is that so that the bodies are visible from the reflection? Because it's hard to see things in a pond, right? Because there's the
Exactly. I think
reflection.
that's exactly why, so that I could see them. Yeah.
Okay. Must be an illusion. So, kids can walk. They don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. So, this is like a break with your parents. And this was like a literal break with your parents because they're like, you guys go to church. We don't need to, which was hypocritical and was not a valid argument.
Right.
So the natural world is beautiful, but it has dead bodies in it. When you were a kid, did you believe in or think about the existence of the soul?
Yes. Yes. Because I was forced to go to church. So yes.
So you accepted that and you believed in it, right?
Yes. Yep.
Now, the soul to me is like a very sort of spirited and animating principle of life. So when people say so and so is soulless, it means they're kind of just sort of trudging through life without any particular joy, without any particular enthusiasm, and without a lot of spontaneity and playfulness and liveliness. When people
Right.
say so and so is soulless, that's sort of my associations. You may, of course, have different ones.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, so if that is the case, would you how much, or would it be fair to describe your parents as somewhat soulless?
I would say, yeah, I got to notice that more when after they had retired because they didn't have, especially my father. Like, work was gone, so there wasn't anything. He wasn't that close to the family. He wasn't close to religion. He didn't have a job, so he started drinking more, basically watching TV most of the time. So that was basically a
Yeah,
soulless
so that's
existence. Yes.
definitely kind of soulless, right? Like NPC
Yes.
stuff, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And what industry did your or what area did your father work in?
I was an engineer.
An engineer. Okay. An engineer, and that is mechanical, right? There's a
Exactly.
certain amount of soullessness just in that, right?
Right.
I'm not saying like all engineers are soulless, but I mean in terms of
Right.
like it being sort of mechanical, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So they are away from the church, don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. Driven, of course, has two meanings. Well, at least two. One is to be driven in a car. The other is to be driven and enthusiastic, right?
Right. Right.
What was your father's level of drive? And like you think of someone like Elon Musk, who has like crazy drive and enthusiasm, right?
Right.
What was your father's level of drive and enthusiasm?
In terms of drive, yes, worked very hard at his work, but also on the weekends, always had a project to do something, whether it was fixing, any of the mechanical stuff like the oven or the dishwasher or something like that, or outside. So he was always busy. But then again, once after retirement, it's like fell off a cliff. It was nothing.
But was he
So,
enthusiastic?
and there's not really, no.
what was your parents' respective levels of joyfulness? That doesn't mean, of course, always being joyful, but
Right.
level of spontaneity and joy and delight, at least at times.
When they would get together with their friends, yes, they would be. Or sometimes when we'd have meals together, it was kind of hit or miss, but yes, they would be happy, joyful. Or sometimes
And
watching TV together. It's like a funny movie or sports, watching sports.
okay, got it. Two dead bodies, one adult and one child, wearing very brightly colored clothes, lying very still in the shallow water. It must have been an illusion. An illusion. I mean, it wouldn't be a mirage, right? Because you're too close, right? So I'm trying to figure out what the
Right.
illusion might be.
Because
Like,
maybe
you
I was
mean
just
an
shocked that
illusion that's sort of a
I
trick
couldn't
in your
imagine.
eyes or something?
Well, I just couldn't imagine there would be two dead bodies in water. I was very shocked because I've been there many times to the pond. Like, this can't be happening.
And then you dissociate. I mean, almost completely. Because,
Right.
I mean, always the interesting thing in dreams is to compare them to how you would act in the real world.
Right.
So at the beginning, let's just go back to the beginning. You are there with your son. And he's about the age that your parents stopped going to church, but you're there, which means that's a
I'm there.
deviation from what your father did, right?
Right.
And everything's kind of normal until you see the bodies, and then things go weird. Because
Right.
if in real life you were down there and you saw a body, you would jump straight
Right.
in case they're still alive.
Right.
Like you wouldn't say, "Hey, Tom," and try and get his attention and then take off your socks and shoes. Like there's something very strange and slow that's happening here, which is your dream telling you this isn't real, but it's important, right? Because if it was real, if you were down there or anybody was down there and you saw these two bodies,
Yeah.
you would immediately jump in, shoes, socks, doesn't matter. You would immediately jump in and try and pull the people out, right?
Exactly. For
But
sure.
you're doing like, "Hey, Tom," and he doesn't see you, and then you start chatting, right?
Right.
With bodies in the water, and you don't
Yeah.
tell him about the bodies. A close friend of your younger brother. Is he still a close friend of your younger brother, or was just back then?
Back then, they didn't see each other once in a while, but yeah, no, I wouldn't
So
say a
I
close friend
wanted
now.
to say, I wanted. So did you think when you say I want to confirm that they're real? Did you think they might be mannequins or something?
Yeah, might be mannequins or something. Yeah, I
Some
don't know.
prank or
Book
something
dog.
like
Right.
that, right?
Right. Yeah.
There was a kid's plastic pail and shovel on the ground, and I picked up the little shovel and waded into the water up to my knees. Now, do you remember, if anything, how Tom reacted to you saying there are two bodies in the water?
I just told him that and then walked by him and went and got the pail and shovel. But I didn't see
So
his
he
reaction.
didn't
No.
do anything. He didn't be like, "Oh my God, let's get in there, let's get them out," and
No.
oh my,
No.
this like I've got to like. There's something very interesting here. That are you pretending that the bodies aren't there earlier on? Like, what happens to the bodies when you're trying to get Tom's attention?
Right. Right. It's not. I didn't see anything about that.
So you're covering up these bodies in a way.
Right.
So
Because he
that's why
hasn't
I
seen them
asked.
or didn't
Okay, go
notice.
ahead.
Right. Yeah, because he hasn't seen them. Right. Or hasn't noticed them.
Well, no, but you could point them out.
Right. Right.
So what I think is interesting here is earlier I asked you, what did the priests or the other adults say about your parents not being there at church?
Right. Right.
And you said, well, nothing.
Nothing. That's correct.
So the people embedded in the natural world who aren't going to church, nobody's commenting, nobody's mentioning, not even you.
Right.
That they're not their people.
Right.
So you are covering up these bodies, conspicuous by their absence. They're not in the
Right.
church. They're underwater, but you're not sure if they're real.
Right.
So I can't stay to get erect at all.
I don't know. How does this sound? Maybe I just knew I couldn't save them. Is that, or maybe I
Well, I
assumed they
think
would.
so. This is always a big question that we have with just about everyone in our life that we didn't choose, like you didn't choose your parents, right? Are they real? Are they real? Are they alive?
Mhm.
And the question of aliveness is, sort of deep and powerful and interesting. And I think it has a lot to do with, are they spontaneous? Are they thoughtful? Are they affectionate? Do they have access to their emotions? Are they real? Are they real people, or are they just kind of robots, NPCs,
Right.
not
Right.
spontaneous, not genuine, not thoughtful, not curious, not connected?
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yes.
Now, for your parents to say absolute nonsense like we graduated from church, it's not even remotely credible. And of course, I put all of my listeners at top 1% of intelligence. So,
Yeah.
and you knew that was nonsense at the time, right?
Right. But when my older brother had said so, my father got very angry at him. I was like, don't question me. Just do it.
Oh, so your older brother said, what do you mean you graduated from church? That's not a thing.
No, he said, why do we have to go if you don't go?
And your father said, don't question me.
Right.
Okay. So your father tried to give a cover story. Your father tried to give you something credible. But when it turned out that it was not even remotely believable, he got angry, right?
Exactly. Very angry. Yeah.
Very angry.
Which is often the case.
He had a bad temper.
Oh, yeah.
And how often would he get angry in, say, any given week or month?
Well, think back to, Eddie Murphy talking about slavery. It's like, oh, people used to whip. It's like, oh, once you see someone get whipped, it's like, okay, I'll do whatever. I'll pick that cotton, just keep the back with those whips, right? It was kind of like that thing. Like you didn't have to, you just had to see once or twice, and it would come up once in a while, and you knew that you'd get a beating if you crossed him. So yeah,
What
it
did
didn't have
he
to
beat?
happen every week.
What did he beat you guys with?
His hand,
Okay, so he wasn't an implement guy, right?
no, didn't need it. It was big enough.
Open hand, closed hand.
Open. Yeah.
And how was your mother's, or what was your mother's reaction to these beatings?
Uh, Need to keep the kids in line.
I'm sorry,
She
say again.
definitely supported it. She supported need to keep the kids in line. She would do the same thing.
So they both hit you.
Oh yeah. My
And how
mother
often
used
would you get hit by your mother?
um that was more random type of basically on her mood. If she had a bad day or something like that, it would trigger her off, and then yeah, she would take a cutting board and use that to hit us with.
She'd hit you with a cutting board?
And yes, with had a handle on it. So
That's pretty brutal, isn't it? Okay, so that your father's
they both had gone to religious schools and gotten beaten up by the nuns. They both had talked about that as well in their childhood.
well, then they know how bad and unpleasant it is.
Right.
All right. So your mother's was more, your father's was more sort of cold and angry, and your mother's was more volatile and emotional. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So how much did you think the bodies were an illusion when you first saw them and you were chatting with Tom?
I think I thought they were real, but I just wanted to confirm. I wanted to hope. I was hoping, obviously, they were or wasn't real, but I just had to confirm that they were.
Okay. Now the plastic pail and shovel, I don't quite. But the small beach, the bright colored beach things, right?
Right. Right. Yep.
And now you can only see the child's body lying on the ground under the shallow water, right?
Right.
And that would accord with your father being gone because he died earlier, like
Right.
15 years
Right.
earlier than your mother. Is that
Yes.
right?
Correct.
I reached down and held the child's little hand, and as I tried to lift her hand, I could see that her arm was buried under the sand.
Like it had been there a while, so that's why the sand had gone over it. Yeah.
Right, I started digging with the little plastic shovel, but I couldn't extricate her arm because she was wearing a sweater that was stuck or buried in the sand. Was your mother a sweater person, or does that have any resonance for you, or is that
Yeah. Yeah. She was.
okay? So maybe this is the mother thing. Okay.
Right.
I realized that I couldn't pick up the child's body and place it on the shore by myself. So I turned back to Tom, who was still standing there by the side of the pool, asked him to call 911 and get some help. So I mean, I'm on the other end of 911, right?
Right.
Because you can't get to the dream on your own, and the dream is saying, call Steph, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Which arm, left or right, from her perspective?
Um. Left.
Was she left-handed?
No.
Okay.
But I think it also might have been, just because, I was thinking of when I went to this funeral. I've been to a number of children's funerals too, so that could be it. So, I'm not just here for my parents, but my parents' age, but there's also, children's funerals I've been to, which is obviously a lot more impactful as opposed to one of my, parents' friends who's died at over age 80. I think that also
Yes.
might have been, coming up, and how obviously that's. I mean, it's sad, obviously, when you go to someone's funeral, they're friend of the family, but when it's a children's, it's unbearable. I mean, it's almost unbearable.
Right. Right.
I think that might have had something to do with it.
Let me
I think the
ask.
fact that my son was in the dream as well. It's like, okay, people, going up to parents and saying, "I'm sorry for your loss," and there's their kid right in the casket. I mean, that's just, oh,
Yeah, but there's no. I mean, yeah, but the child who's in there,
mhm.
it's funny because things that are difficult or unpleasant that we know are difficult or unpleasant don't usually show up in dreams. It's
I
the
see.
things that are difficult or unpleasant that we're not consciously aware of that show up in dreams.
Okay.
How you said that your mother was sort of more volatile. Did she
Yes.
grow up? Did she become more mature and wiser? It doesn't sound like that if she's just appeasing your older brother and doing the 2 or 3 days a week, even though she's exhausted. It doesn't sound like she got boundaries or negotiation or wisdom. And the fact
No.
that you said
No.
she had favorites, that's a child's perspective, like my favorite toy, my
Right.
favorite yeah, blanket, or that's a kid's thing to have these favorites,
Right.
particularly with regards to kids,
Right.
especially your own kids. So the favorite
Yes.
things is very immature. The lack of boundaries is very immature, and the volatile hitting is very immature. And the fact that she just appeased your brother and did not see your kids, it's also very immature. I mean, did she? Doesn't it doesn't say? I don't want to put words in your mouth. It doesn't sound like she really grew up.
No. You're correct. Because even towards the end of her days, she'd always be complaining about how bad her mother was. Her mother had been dead for 60 years or 50 years or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. So your father was old before his time, and your mother never grew up,
Right.
and so you've got an old body and a kid's body, and it must have been an illusion. So are they real or not? Are they? Yes. I mean, and I'm trying. Obviously, I'm obviously trying and keep my own family history out of this. But my experience with my family was trying to figure out if they were what I would consider alive. So people who are
Mhm.
highly defensive,
Yeah.
to me, are not really alive. That's the NPC thing. You say this, they say that, right? You bring up Trump, they get angry. You bring like, I'm not saying that was your parents, but those.
Right.
So with me, it was like, okay, is the person alive? Do they process things in the moment, or are they just defensive or justifying themselves? Do they adjust their behavior based upon what's happening in the world, or do they simply adjust their own defenses and justifications to do what feels better in the moment? Now, when your mother was acting unjustly towards you,
Mhm.
when she was spending all the time with your older brother's kids and no time with yours, right? Oh,
Right. Literally.
yes.
Yeah.
She said only only call me if it's an emergency. And what do you do at the end of the dream?
Call the emergency services.
You
Yeah.
call 911, right?
Right.
Okay, so only call me if it's an emergency is incredibly like I mean you've been a dad, right? So you know little
Yeah.
kids just say stuff that is incredibly insult actually kind of had one on the live stream today. But little kids say stuff that's like incredibly insulting and they're just innocent of it.
Right. Right.
Like why is auntie so fat? I mean it's an innocent question, right?
Right.
And so your mother, it seemed like, was so immature that she didn't even notice when she said to you, or maybe she did, I don't think she did. Tell me if she did. When she said to you, well, your brother's kids are really important. Your kids only call me if there's an emergency. I mean, that's such an insult to you and your family, but she sounds like almost innocent of understanding that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And we kind of thought it was narcissistic, but yes, just
Well, but
revolving around
but
herself. But
narcissistic
yeah.
is also a very early phase in life.
Right. Right.
I mean, all early toddlers are narcissistic because they don't have the ability to think in terms of other people.
Right.
I mean, it would be like imagine a baby trying to reverse breastfeed the mother. Like it's just not going to happen, right? Because they're
Right.
husbands, right? It's
Yeah.
themselves and themselves alone.
Right.
Okay, so can I reach my mother? Is she is she alive? Is she conscious, or is she an automata? Is she like a robot or an NPC? Is there someone I can connect with? Or is she in such an early state of mind that I cannot impact her consciousness?
It would be the latter for sure. Yes.
Well, and with your father, when your older brother said basically this is bullshit, and he's like, "Don't question me, kid," or he gets all Darth Vader on him, right?
Right.
That
Right.
is that is saying you can't be a curious thinking person in this relationship,
Exactly. Exactly.
and I'm going to intimidate or frighten you into being silent. Okay, so
Because
why
that
do
also
you?
happened at the, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it also happened at the end of his life when we started to get him to stop drinking, and he just got extremely angry. Leave me alone.
I mean, that's almost like a death wish, right?
Right.
I'm sure that his doctor said you got to stop smoking and drinking, or you're not going to last.
Exactly. Yes. Every year.
Okay, so you say hi, Tom, and you try to get his attention and so on. And so you, as a kid, could not figure out, you could not take the risk of figuring out whether your parents were alive or NPCs because you were still
Right.
under their control, right?
Right.
So when did you first consciously begin to think that your parents were not very spontaneous or lively or alive in the way that we're talking here?
I would say as my brother got older, he would question more, and then it'd be like, "Whoa, wow, that's a great point." You would get to the point, especially when we started becoming a teenager, of questioning things, and then sort of the realization that this is not the way you should be treating him or us, my brother, or it's right. Yeah.
Right. I also don't want to forget this big challenge that's happening in the dream, which is your son vanishes from your mind,
Right.
right? Because your son's there, and
Mhm.
there's also dead bodies there, right?
Right. Right.
Now, and also you just walk like you completely forget about your kid, even though wouldn't your kid be in a parking lot or where cars
But
might
no,
be
so he
around?
was. Well, no, he was. So I was in the parking lot. He was walking by the street, and he was going down the road. So he was leaving.
Right. So this indicates that it's something to do with fatherhood, but not your fatherhood, because if it was your fatherhood, if your kid was walking down the street, you wouldn't go down to the pond, right?
Right. Right.
Right. You'd call your kid over and say, hey, I want to show you this pond. This is like I spent a lot of time here as a kid and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. Right.
So you just let your kids can walk. Oh, that's interesting because walk also has these two meanings. Dreams are great this way. Walk
Mhm.
means just to obviously to step from place to place.
Right.
Kids can walk, like it means leave.
Right. Right.
Like if you don't give us raise, we're gonna walk.
Right. Right.
They go on strike. The kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. And then he leaves the dream and never returns, right?
Exactly.
You don't know where he's going. You don't know, right?
Right.
So this indicates that it's about fatherhood, but not your fatherhood. Because if it was your fatherhood, you'd call your kid over or you'd go with your kid, right? You wouldn't just let him wander off
Exactly.
and then never think of him again, right?
Right.
Okay. So you see these dead bodies, and this is around the time that you started going to church without you sent to church without your parents.
Yes.
So are they alive or are they just making up stories to win in the moment or dominating or brutal or do they have empathy? Maybe that's sort of the question.
Right.
We don't want to go to church. You kids need to go to church. And we're going to give you an obvious lie like we've graduated from church, which is not a thing. So do they have empathy? Because if they don't have empathy, then they're kind of emotionally dead because to have empathy is to genuinely feel what other people feel and negotiate there's self and there's other, and it's to have sort of a rich and deep communicative relationship and so on, right? So
Right.
if they don't have empathy because they're in the opposite of the church and kind of soulless, it's really tough for kids to figure out, or it's actually quite dangerous for kids to try and figure out whether their parents have empathy. Because if you wake up to the fact that they don't have empathy, it's really scary. And so you see these bodies, but you don't want to check if they're alive or not. You don't want to check if they're real or not. You're just chatting with Tom, right?
Right. Right.
But in that period where you are not able, oh sorry, in that period where you're unwilling to just jump in the water and figure out if they're alive or dead, you're invisible to others. And that's how the deadness spreads. So for kids, if your parents are NPCs, if they lack empathy, if they're just kind of narcissistic or they're like
Uh-huh.
automatons, then while you are avoiding this knowledge, you also lack empathy for yourself and others. So you're invisible. So they're dead and you're invisible. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Because Tom is walking towards you and is like not noticing anything, right?
Not at all. Right. Which
So
is
you
very
keep
surprising
calling
in the
his
dream.
name. Sorry, go ahead.
This is very surprising that
Sorry, what do you mean?
he didn't recognize me, especially being so close and then walking right by. Yeah.
Well, but here's the fascinating thing, and it's all fascinating, but here's the fascinating thing.
Yeah.
You keep saying his name and you're invisible, right?
Right.
But when does he know that you're there?
When I say my name.
When you say your name. So when you're focusing on others, you're invisible. When you tell him your name, he says hello and you materialize, right?
Right.
So that means that you had some kind of connection as a teenager. I think you had some kind of connection as a teenager that gave you the strength. And maybe this is your older brother, right? But you had some kind of connection as a teenager that allowed you to begin probing your parents' emptiness and lack of compassion, lack of empathy, their deadness. Now,
Exactly.
you said that Tom was a friend of your younger brother, and your younger brother refused church earlier, right?
Yes, or maybe my parents just gave up on pushing him to do it, but one way or the other, he stopped going. Yeah.
Okay, so your younger brother defied your parents, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they didn't escalate with him, right?
Correct.
As much. Okay,
Right.
so your younger brother defies your parents and shows their weakness or their lack of principle. So, in other words, when your younger brother defies your parents and they don't escalate with him, it means that they don't care about any principle. They only care whether they have the energy and desire to escalate. And where they didn't with your younger brother, it means that all of the things that they said, why they were hitting you, well, to teach you respect or to teach you discipline, none of that meant anything. They only did it because they had the energy and the strength and they wanted to do it. And then with your brother, they didn't have the energy and strength to want to do it.
Right.
And so they didn't do it.
Exactly.
So it means it was only about power. It was never about principle, if that makes sense.
In perfect sense, because it was quite shocking that he was able to get away with it when we weren't.
Right. Right. Okay. So when you say your name, you become real to him and you start talking. You don't have any idea how long you talked, did you?
I was just very short time. Hi, how you doing? How's everything going? Yeah.
So then it's very interesting. You start taking off your shoes and socks to get in the water. Why are you doing that? It's too cold to go in the water. Two bodies lying under the water. I told Tom that I wanted to confirm if they are real. So it's interesting, of course, to confirm if bodies are real or not, to take off your socks and shoes, you roll up your pants and all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's quite delicate in a way, right?
Uh-huh.
So the kid's plastic pail and shovel on the ground, picked up the little shovel and waded into the water up to my knees, looked down at the water, can only now see the child's body. Did you have any direct conversations with your father before he died, or did he mostly die with the distance between you?
Uh, Died of the distance between us. Yes.
Okay. And did you have any more luck or any more I don't know how long you've been listening to what I do. Any more luck or more focus talking to your mother before she died?
No. After she got sick, I started listening to you, so I didn't get that chance at the time.
Sorry, I thought she was sick for 5 years. Did I get that wrong?
Yes. Yeah.
She had time.
Right.
That's interesting because you kind of
5 years.
despawned a little there, right?
I would say, what does despawn mean?
Sorry, despawn means that I was asking you a question, you made an excuse, which is, you remember earlier I said, like,
Uh-huh.
you're just making stuff up and it's kind
Right.
of tough to penetrate. Because when
That's
we
it.
start talking about your parents,
Mhm.
you get very abstract and deflecty, right? So I said, did
I
you have a
see.
chance with your mother to talk to her before she died? And then you said, well, I didn't have time, but she was sick for 5 years. Yeah, time, right?
Right. At time, yeah.
So this making
But
up of
it was a memory
excuses.
issue. It was a memory issue. So, I mean, having a conversation was no meaning.
Oh, sorry, she had.
Like Alzheimer's.
Oh, she had Alzheimer's. Okay, and
Yeah.
for how long did she have Alzheimer's? Sorry, was the getting sick Alzheimer's from the beginning?
Yes, it was just started with like dementia and then went into full-blown Alzheimer's.
Ah,
So that was
interesting.
over a period
Okay.
of 8 or 9 years, maybe 10. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Because normally Alzheimer's patients don't last that long, but she lasted quite a bit longer than the average.
So was she getting progressively more childlike as she went forward?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so then that would be why she's a kid in the dream.
Right. Because she would only remember, it got to a point where she forgot our names. It could only remember her parents' names or her siblings' names.
Oh, so if you can't remember her children's names but can remember her parents' names, that specifically is little girl stuff.
Right. Like, I have to be home for dinner, when my parents
So
will get
she
angry, stuff
regressed.
like that. Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, then I would say for certain. If your father vanishes from the dream
Hmm.
and your mother is a little girl and she died having regressed considerably back into her childhood, I think that and she then the sweater I think is another
Right.
issue. Okay, so you told Tom you wanted to confirm if they're real. So let's play this out as if this were real, like a real, right? So
Right.
you believe in the dream, you must believe that they're dead, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise you wouldn't be wasting time or like you would just dive in and try and pull them out, right?
Right.
So wanted to confirm if they're real. Kid's plastic pail and shovel, wade into the water up to your knees, look down into the water, only see the child's body lying on the ground under the shallow water. I reached down and held the child's little hand, and as I tried to lift her hand, I could see that her arm was buried under the sand. I started digging with the little plastic shovel, could not extricate her arm.
So
Why
basically, the
did you
hand was
want?
sticking out, right? The hand was sticking out, but the arm was under the sand.
Right, right. Now, why did you want to extricate her arm in the dream?
To get her out of the water.
Why did you want to get her out of the water? Because the purpose was not to get them out of the water. The purpose was to confirm if they're real.
Right.
So once you've established that they're real, why wouldn't you then turn and say, call 911? There are real bodies here. So you reached down and held the child. Now, did you hold the child's hand to find out if it's real or plastic or a mannequin or something?
Right. Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So you reached down and you held the child's little hand. Now, I got to tell you, I don't think I'd do that if it was a
Hmm.
real body.
Right.
What about you? I don't think I would touch it
Well,
skin to skin.
no.
I don't know what the hell it died of, right?
It's trying to help. Right.
Well, but that's what I'm trying to figure out, right? I
Right.
reached down and held the child's little hand. So when do you realize that it's real? When do you realize the bodies are real? When you look down in the water?
Let's see.
I'm sorry?
Let's see. I'm trying to think here. I want to make sure I get this correct.
So you wade into the water,
Right.
you pick up the little shovel, and you pick the shovel. I assume you pick the shovel because you don't want to touch the bodies. You want to poke them and see if they're real, right?
Right. Right. And also, in case I need to dig them out, I guess.
What do you mean dig them out? Why would you dig out the bodies?
If
Like
they're stuck,
honestly,
right?
it could be no, seriously, it could be a crime scene. You
Right.
shouldn't be disturbing this, right? So this is what I'm trying to sort of puzzle here. Are they real or not? Okay, first of all, you could just dial 911 and see if they're real. You could ask Tom, what do you think, or anything like that, right?
Right.
Because personally, if I saw things that I thought were two dead bodies, I'd just
Hmm.
immediately call 911. I wouldn't go in there and disturb it because, again, it could be a crime scene. So you go in and you see the child's body. You can't see the older guy anymore, right? So you
Correct.
see the child's body lying on the ground under the shallow water. So then you know it's real, right?
Right. I know it's real.
So reached down and held the child's little hand. Does that remind you of your mother dying, or did you hold her hand while she was dying, or anything like that?
No. No.
Were
But
you there when she died?
yes. Yeah.
And you didn't hold her hand?
No, no. It was a couple of us around the bed, and it was she was, I guess, out of it. So no, it didn't
But
hold
why
my hand.
wouldn't you? I'm just curious. I mean, I assume you had some affection for your mother, or you were there and
Yeah.
took care of her for half a decade or whatever, right? So
Us and our wives were there. Yes.
why wouldn't you hold her hand? And it's not a criticism. I'm just curious because that's
Basically,
the traditional thing, isn't
right,
it?
because she was completely out of it.
So why does that mean? Does that mean you shouldn't hold her hand?
No.
I should. I mean, don't you hope someone's holding your hand when you're dying?
Right. Yeah, none of us did. We just stood there.
What about was there any level of physical affection between you and your mom when she got older?
Yes. Yep.
I see you hugged and all that
Lots
kind
of
of stuff.
hugs. Oh yeah.
Okay, but you wouldn't hold her hand
I don't recall
when
that.
she's
No.
dying.
No.
I'm sorry?
Maybe one of my brothers did, and that's
No,
why,
okay, but
because
I'm
I was
talking
at
about
the
you, not
right.
right, because you're
I
a
know.
dream, right?
Right.
Okay, so I reached down, held the child's little hand, and as I tried to lift her hand, I could see that her arm was buried under the sand. Why do you want to pull the arm out?
So I think it's still, if I remember, this is hard to go back, and because that's why I wrote it down right away.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
woke up, is because I thought I could still, maybe do mouth to mouth or something. I don't know if that's true,
Well,
because I could
but
extricate her
no,
and then bring her to the shore, and then right,
but then you're kind of a murderer,
right.
right? Because if you see them and then you're like, "Hey, Tom," and you chat, and then you take your socks off, and then you kind of go in slowly, and because it's kind of cold, and right, if you think that they might still be alive,
Hmm.
then you want them dead.
Right. Right.
And so your dream by setting it up that there are bodies under the water,
Hmm.
already that's urgent.
Right.
And so you kind of dilly dally, and that to me is like you as a teenager trying to figure out whether your parents can be reached with reason or not, whether they're alive, right?
Hmm.
Um, and did your parents did they ever have any deep conversations, life, meaning, virtue, or was it mostly small
No,
talk?
mostly small talk.
Okay, so that's why it's shallow water, because they could be
Right.
1,000 fathoms deep, and Dream could take you down there, no problem, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. So why? It's not because you think they might be alive. Why are you trying to lift the hand? And what's the emotion when you see the girl?
It's similar to when I had gone to one of the funerals of the child's funeral.
Horror.
Yeah, horror and just kind of shock and just like an emptiness of wow, this shouldn't be happening, right? Again, if it's an older person, yeah, that's natural, but this definitely shouldn't be happening.
Okay, so was your because sometimes volatile people, I sort of think of the Italian cliche, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes volatile people can be very warm-hearted.
right.
And was your mother, would you characterize her as warm-hearted, medium, or cold-hearted?
I would say for the most part, warm-hearted. Yes.
Okay, but if she was warm-hearted, then why would she say things like, only call me regarding your kids if it's an emergency? Because that's very cold. That's very cold-hearted, right?
Right. Right. Like these things would just come up once in a while. These things to shock us would happen once in a while.
Okay. And it's also cold-hearted to hit your children with a cutting board.
Right.
And
Sure.
that's cold, right?
Yeah.
That's like mafioso cold. Okay, and that's why the water is shallow and cold.
I see.
Held the little child's hand. Held is interested, and I know that. So I know that there's the dream, and then there's the language you're using about it, and there's sort of two layers.
Right.
So
Right.
because you would grab the hand if you thought you would, you wouldn't hold holding the hand is a gesture of comfort
Right.
or
Right.
affection. If you think that she might still be alive, you would grab the hand and yank, and you wouldn't be digging with a little plastic shovel. right? So that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to figure out here is to hold the child's little hand. You try to lift her hand, the arm was buried under the sand. So digging with a little plastic shovel. But I couldn't extricate her arm. I realized I couldn't pick up the child's body and place it on the shore by myself. I don't think that's true, though, because you could
Good.
physically,
Right.
right?
Right. But if it was still stuck under the sand, I couldn't get it out. Right.
Well, you could,
I
because you
could
would
have
simply, I mean, again, if you sort of think of it in the
just
real
dig a
world,
little. Yeah. Hmm.
well, no, you don't need to dig. It's a child.
Right.
And
Right.
she's not like, you don't just see the tip of her nose, right?
Right. See the whole body. Yeah.
You see the whole body, so you would just grab her sweater and lift her up.
Right.
And I know, like, you get your foot stuck in the mud and it can be tough to pull out. I mean, but you didn't even try, right?
Correct.
So how do you know that you can't pick the child's body up and place it on the shore by myself, right? Because the digging thing is interesting. Okay, so you're digging. Um, what was your relationship with your mother like over the last, say, 10 years of her life?
Oh, it was just getting progressively worse from an assisted living to memory care to nursing home. Those three stages. So,
Yeah, that's not what I asked, though. I didn't ask how did she decline or what was her medical condition.
right. What was the
What was your
relationship?
relationship?
Just trying to keep her as comfortable as possible. It was very,
What was your relationship? Not like, what did you do medically? Did you
um,
get any closer? Did you talk? I mean, she didn't lose her mind right away. It was a slow decline, I assume.
it was a slow decline. Yes.
I mean, was there affection? Was there stories? Was there, I mean, if she was aware of her condition, I assume she was to some degree. Was there comfort? Was like, what was
Yeah,
your
there was comfort.
relationship?
We would show up and with the kids, and she loved to see us, and was always happy. But it was also, part of the fact that she couldn't drive around herself anymore, so it was reliant upon us to show up. And in that case, it was, you know, I kind of joke with my wife, "Oh, we'll only go see her in an emergency, right?" But of course, we would see her on a regular basis. So yeah,
So you
it
had to
was
drive to go and see her. She couldn't drive
correct,
herself.
correct, right.
And that's
And
funny
she got her
because you
license
say at
taken
the
away.
beginning,
Yeah,
you say kids can walk and don't need to be driven everywhere by their parents. But your mother needed to be driven everywhere by her children, right?
exactly. To doctor's appointments and shopping and things. Yeah.
Okay. And were you, of the three boys or the three men, were you the primary caregiver?
We split it up between myself and my brother,
The older or the younger?
younger. And the older one who
Okay.
got most of the attention didn't do a whole lot to help out when she was sick.
Okay. And so you and your younger brother split it sort of 50-50, give or take?
Mostly, yes.
I'm sorry, you mumbled out there
Yes.
at the end. What was that?
Yes, 50-50. Mostly, yeah.
Okay. And your older brother, who got the free babysitting for years, didn't do much.
Correct.
Okay. Did you love your mother?
Yes.
What did you love? What virtues of hers did you love?
Um, so I would say, like you said, the warm-hearted for the most part, except for these emotional explosions that would happen from time to time. Um, yep, she was basically compared to my father. She spent a lot of time with us. I think that was helpful, making us more feel like part of the family, playing games and cards and board games and things like that.
Hmm. Did she
But
give you
yes,
any wisdom?
um, she would push us to, study harder, push us to,
No, that's work ethic. I
basic,
mean, wisdom,
right.
like how to live, how to be good, how to negotiate, how to deal with life's challenges. Like wisdom, lessons that she gave you that you still find of value to this day.
Mm, not a whole lot. We had to basically self-study for that. And we pick up things from her. I mean, her and my father stayed together. I mean, they were There wasn't, financially or we were middle class. It wasn't any horror show in that sense, which I had seen some from my
Oh,
friends.
but
But
that's just
yeah,
money.
right.
Uh, did you and your wife, did you use corporal punishment with your children at all?
At the beginning, yes,
And
because we
when
thought
did
we thought it was the right thing to do.
Sure, sure. And
But
how old were you? How old were your kids when you stopped?
about first, second grade, maybe
And
6 or 7.
and how often was it spanking? How often did you spank them?
Infrequently, just if something went really wrong.
Okay. Now, if your mother had been babysitting your children and you came home and you found them sort of sobbing and crying with bruises on them, and she had hit your children with a cutting board, what would you think?
I would be extremely angry,
Right.
for sure.
Did you ever express, because that's what happened to you, right? Did you ever
Right.
express your anger towards your mother at how she treated you?
Not in a serious conversation. No. Once in a while, we take, make kind of snide remarks about it, but no, didn't have a real conversation about it.
Why not?
Why not? There's just kind of the feeling that that's the way her parents treated her, so that's the way she would treat her kids.
Well, then there'd be no
So,
reason for you
right,
to get angry if she hit your children with a cutting
right,
board because that's how she was treated. Like, why would you get angry? You'd have all this understanding, wouldn't you?
right, right,
And you'd say to your kids, well, grandma still gets to babysit you and she's going to hit you again, but, she was hit as a kid, so, just suck it up. Maybe,
right,
maybe in 30 years you can make some snide jokes about it.
right, right.
So why does she get
Definitely
all
a
this
lost,
forgiveness I'm sorry?
definitely a lost opportunity to have that discussion.
It's not the opportunity, it's dishonest.
Right.
I mean, why are your kids so much more important than you as a kid? Why would you be outraged if she beat your kids, but you're not outraged that she beat you?
Well, I was very angry when it happened, and held that for a long time, for sure.
Okay, why not tell her? Because it's lying
Right.
by omission, right?
Right.
I mean, if you were doing something that enraged your wife, would you want her to hide it from you for 40 years?
Definitely not.
You'd want her to tell you, right?
Right. Right.
So why not tell your mother?
She get upset again, I guess.
Well, so what? What's wrong with her? I mean, I'm not saying in the later stages of dementia, but what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her being upset?
Right.
I
Good
mean,
question.
she beat you with a cutting board. She has
Right.
no problem upsetting others, so what's wrong with her being upset?
Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know.
Now, do you know who we don't tell the truth to?
Tell the truth to um, children, I guess.
That's right, little kids, right?
Right. Right.
So you were treating your mother, or your mother was milking this, I'm a little kid.
Right.
I can't handle the truth. It'll be too. The reason we don't tell the truth to little kids is because they can't handle the truth, right?
Right. So you're saying basically, I still kept treating her as a child.
Well, even before she had the dementia, she
Right.
had power over you because she was pretending to be a child, which is not uncommon for women.
Hmm.
So you, as an adult, you cannot budge a little girl. She's stronger than you. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to do this little plastic shovel digging as opposed to just grabbing her and pulling her out of the water, right?
Right.
So she's stronger than you, right? A woman's strength is her pretend weakness. A man's weakness is his pretend strength, blah, 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 right?
Right.
The kid's plastic pail and the fact that, okay, was your mother like a fussy, keep it close, clean kind of mom?
To some extent, not too over the top, but yeah.
Well, so I mean, if you were going to go wading in a pond, would your mother
Yes,
want you to
definitely.
take your shoes off? Right. So you take the shoes off because you're around your mom, and you kind of dig a little, but you can't move her, or because she's wearing the sweater as your mom did,
Right.
and so you have, I would assume, and this is true for most men, but you have a weakness with regards to the feminine, which is that you won't treat females as strong, capable, and equal.
Right.
And your mom ran the relationship by pretending to be weak because you wouldn't tell her the truth because it might upset her. And again, that's what we do with little kids,
Right.
right? I mean, you wouldn't show some little kid the Charlie Kirk assassination video because they couldn't handle
Definitely.
it, right?
Right. Right.
So you treated your mother as a child, which is why you lied to her and wouldn't be honest and direct about what you'd suffered at her hands.
Right. That seems to be what's going on here as well. Yes, in the dream.
I realized that I couldn't pick up the child's body and place it on the shore by myself, so I turned back to Tom, who was still standing there by the side of the pond, asked him to call 911 to get some help. Yeah, so this is stuff that you need to see. And my gosh, I mean, this is a very common phenomenon in society. I have it,
Mhm.
you have it, like, which is like if a woman, you know the old thing, like a man cries, everybody like, yeah, walk away, right? A woman
Right.
cries, everyone's like, oh, how can we help you? Like women
Right.
gain, women have immense power by pretending to be weak and childlike. I mean, your mother got to escape the blowback and the just anger of you, not just for how she treated you as a child, but for how she treated you abominably as an adult.
Right.
The asshole brother, I'm all there for him, but you, no, only in an emergency because you're nice.
Definitely got.
She conformed and complied and rewarded the selfish guy. And the two brothers who actually cared for her, I don't know what, we haven't really talked about your relationship between your mother and your younger brother,
Mhm.
but she got away with it all. She got to be a complete hypocrite and send her kids off to church, never got called out by the congregation, never got called out by the priest, never got called out by anybody,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And then she got to appease the elder brother and be with him, the favorite kids, even though it exhausted her. She got to insult your family by seeing you once or twice, even though she lived only 45 minutes away. She got to insult your family by saying, no, I'm there for them 2 or 3 days a week, but for you, only in an emergency. And again, that's the kind of, quote, innocent, childlike stuff that women pull. And it worked. She
It
got to
worked.
go from birth to grave, never being confronted for the wrongs that she did.
Right. And I think that 911 definitely is the ties directly to the emergency, only an emergency.
Yes. And I think, and we don't have to get into this because,
Yeah.
that's something that you can mull over.
Mhm.
But I would say that your mother died, was it 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So there's something going on in your life. Maybe it's your mother-in-law or something like that, or maybe it's a female boss or something. But there's something going on in your life where female power is invisible to you. And the female power of I can't handle it I mean, that's what hate speech is, right? Hate speech, the whole thing is just, well, you can't tell the truth to women because they'll get really upset,
Right.
right? So, I mean, or maybe it's got something to do with the fact that Charlie Kirk just got fucking slaughtered for upsetting people.
Right.
And so maybe there's something that's going on culturally oh, sorry, when did the dream happen?
A couple of weeks ago, August
Okay,
30th.
so yeah, it's
So it was
before the
before.
Charlie Kirk stuff or before the Irina stuff. Okay. All right. But I mean, it's certainly in the air. I don't know if you were listening to me, like I was for weeks before, and it was a funny kind of coincidence, but for weeks before Charlie was murdered, um, I was saying, like, you do maximum philosophy until they're just about to kill you, and then you pull back.
Uh,
And maybe you
you
heard some
pull
of those
back.
shows. I don't
You
know.
you pull back to avoid the violence. Is
Well,
that
you
what
pull
your
back
point
so they
was?
don't kill you.
Right.
I mean, that was certainly the way that I was heading. I mean, I knew
Right.
that from the bomb threats and death threats, right?
Right.
So you do that. That's why I did 5 years in the wilderness, right? So you do maximum philosophy until they're just about to kill you, then you pull it back, and then hopefully you can advance again. And certainly, since I was gone, a lot of things have moved forward that were wildly shocking when I first brought them up, and now people are accepting and absorbing them. But yeah, if you're too far ahead, it's like in a war, right? If you're too far
Mhm.
ahead, then the arrows they shoot at the enemy hit you in the back because you're too close to the enemy, right? You have to wait for the army to catch up, right? So, so there's something that's going on, I think, where the female power of pretend excessive vulnerability is dominating you in some way.
Because
And
I
I
would
think
also
the
get hit
dream.
in school by women teachers.
I'm sorry.
I would also get hit in school. One of my,
Yes.
in elementary school, the teacher also had a paddle that had the words "hot" on it and would hit the kids.
Right.
So
Right,
it's
I don't know if you've been on social media, but I mean, I talked about the sort of feral nature of women these days. Is that women say, well, because I'm upset, I can use violence,
right.
and whether that's personal violence or the violence of the state, right? Which is this speech is upsetting me, we need to ban it. And I think, and I think this is a dream that is common to men in the West, right? I mean, Andrew Tate was replying to one of my tweets the other day where he was saying that white men have got to stop listening to women because they're just leading you down the garden path, and other races don't listen to their women and look how they're flourishing. And this is all. I don't want to get into the truth or falsehood of that statement, but that is that the question of what the hell have we done in the West that women have so much power. Like I saw this. There was a cartoon today which was adulterous in the Bible days, getting stoned, right? And now
Right.
adulterous in the modern age, the adulterer and the wife, they get alimony and they get the house, and like the guy's living in the car. Like the amount of female power in the West is staggering because they outvote, they outlive, and they
Get more goodies from the state. Right.
more goodies from the state. You get the national debt and all of this language policing and tone policing, and the wokeness is just female nature plus the state, right? So
Right.
this sort of pretend weakness stuff is really is just absolutely dominating the West, which is I'm so vulnerable that if you upset me, I'm gonna scream at you.
Right.
And it's like if you can't manage your emotions, you can't be part of adult conversations. And if you're that volatile, then you shouldn't be making any important decisions.
So, given the state of things today, I guess the real question is: see, my mother's long gone, but it's how do my sons navigate this situation
Well, yeah, that was
as
my
they're
sort of
trying
next
to?
question, which was about your sons and their dating life, because your sons are going to meet women who are going to try and play them this way.
Right.
And if you brought your sons up to be more conservative or whatever, which is very much the case with most young men these days, they're going to run into these hyper leftist women who are going to be incredibly manipulative and play victim and control them, and as your mother did, right? You
Right.
can't tell
Right.
the truth to your mother because she'll just get too upset, right? And thus you're treating her as a little toddler, but she's not a little toddler. She's treating you're treating her as a little toddler, and therefore she has all the power.
Right.
And you're doing this in the world of nature, because Christianity is quite masculine, right? And
Right.
gives you, I mean, the whole Adam and Eve thing, right? And
Right.
the dangers and temptations of the female and so on. And so, because you're not in the church, you are vulnerable to the pretense of female victimhood.
Right.
And if you're not aware of that, and your sons saw all of this, right? So
Right.
if your mother got sick 10 years ago, then your sons were in their early teens, right?
Correct.
And so they saw throughout their entire psychosocial, sexual development, and all of that, they saw you cucking to your mom. Sorry to put it so bluntly, but they saw you
Right.
deferring to your mom, doing everything for your mom, having no needs of your own, only saying her name, not yours, as you did with Tom in the dream. That he only noticed you when you said your name, ignoring your own children, right? Because you've got a son at the
Right.
beginning of the dream and you completely ignore him. So, in my view, right, one thing to look back on is to say, what did I teach my sons about female power if I took care of the woman who beat me and who married a man who beat me and who applauded him beating me and who insulted my children and had favorites and played favorites, and I just surrendered half their childhoods to take care of this woman without having a single fucking need of my own.
Right.
Not even the need to be honest. I self-erased in order to serve the manipulative, pitiful feminine.
Right.
What has that taught my sons about male and female power and authority? I mean, I never expressed anger to my mother for how she abused me.
Right.
In most places in the West, if your mother, when your mother hit you with a cutting board, she'd go to jail.
These days, yes.
Criminal assault.
Right.
And that's what you felt when you thought of your sons being hit by your mother.
Right.
So women get off scot-free because women dominate and dictate the conversation. And really, it's not personal to you, of course. I'm completely sick and
Yeah.
tired in the West of men deferring to everything that women say they want.
Sure. But yes, they're
Did
definitely
your wife, and sorry, we don't
going.
have to get into your marriage, of course. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Did your wife say you need to have an honest conversation with your mother before she dies, or before she gets too mentally compromised with her Alzheimer's?
She did point out the issues that you mentioned,
And did she
but she
encourage
didn't.
you to resolve them?
She encouraged me to behave differently.
Okay. All right. So then why would you choose your mother over your wife?
Oh, my wife wouldn't stand for that.
Well,
So
she said you need to behave differently. Did you behave differently?
So we had actually moved away for a few years, and then when I moved back to the area, it was the Alzheimer's had started. So during that previous
Okay, you
part where
can't
we lived
phone
close
her?
by.
Good Lord, man. Good Lord. We're talking on the phone, right? Well, you can't have important conversations on the phone. You phone her. Come on, man. Don't give me
Right.
this nonsense. Like this is the bullshit that men do.
Right.
You just
Right.
make up shit. Well, I didn't have time. It's only 5 years. Well, we moved away. Like I can't use the Pony Express. Come on, man.
Right.
Jesus. Reach down between your legs. Feel those sacks. Of course you could have called her. Of course you could have had that conversation.
I could have. Yep.
Right? So your mother wanted you what? She wanted you to be more honest and direct with your mother, your wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you?
After we moved back, yes. But again, it was it didn't have quite the effect, obviously, with the memory
Sorry,
issues.
you were more honest and direct with your mother
The
after
second
she had
time.
the Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so
Because
I thought you
obviously, I
didn't
mean,
really, I thought you didn't really talk to your mother about her beating
well, it
you
was
and
more
so
like
on.
she didn't want to move out of her place, but that was
Oh,
just
just
when it got to
typical.
be
No, no, no. I'm talking about
right.
your actual emotions and
I
experience with
know.
your mother.
No.
Okay, so that's what I mean. So if your wife wanted you to be more direct with your mother, and your mother obviously didn't want to have that happen, and you conformed to your mother against your wife, that means you chose your mother over your wife in that instance.
Right.
Just like your mother chose your brother over you and your younger brother.
Right.
So conforming to the least mature person and ignoring the advice of the more mature person, you don't want to model that for your kids, but you have in some ways.
Right.
And listen, I'm just pointing out that I'm sure you
Yeah.
did a million things right as a dad. I'm just pointing out what your dream might be saying to you.
It's a definite lesson.
I'm sorry?
It's definitely a good lesson. Yes, it definitely need the reminder.
Read a
Yes.
book called Man's Fear of Women.
Okay.
It's a very good book. It's a very good book and well worth reviewing. Because you don't want your sons to grow up with this level of deference, right?
Correct.
Because if your sons are treating women as if they're sort of these frail, fragile beasts that can't be disturbed, then the women will run roughshod all over them. And these days, that's very hazardous, right?
Big time, for sure.
All right. How do we do?
Great. Great. Like you said, there's some of these things I just couldn't suss out what it meant in the dream, but it's extremely helpful for you to provide this feedback and insight.
Good,
There's some
good.
things I just couldn't get at.
I
Very
would
much
say talk
appreciated.
about this with your wife because she's going to have an infinitely better view of it than I did, and hopefully,
Right.
if there's anything that is important that we missed, I hope you'll drop me a line. And I really do appreciate your time tonight. It's been a while since we did
Yes.
a dream, but this was a really great one.
Yes. Thank you, Steph. So much appreciated.
All
Keep up
right,
the great
thanks,
work.
brother. All the
Okay.
best.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay. Bye.